Now, joining me live in the studio is the Senior Vice President of Paytm, which is India's largest e-wallet. Deepak Abbot joins me live here to talk about financial inclusion and how e-wallets are now the future. Deepak, good evening and welcome to WION.
My pleasure.
Let's start off by talking about this move by the government of India. Firstly, as a curtain raiser, what is your view on demonetization?
So, if you look at Paytm's vision, I think from last 2 years they've been they've almost brought 150 million people to cashless economy, and their mission is to bring almost 500 million of Indian users to cashless, and that's been their mission. In fact, this move came at the right time because we've invested in our infrastructure, we invested in a merchant network, we've already invested in a lot of users. So for us to move from 150 million to 500 million, I think this was the right time for something like this to happen.
What kind of fantastic valuations are e-wallet players really riding on now?
So we've seen quite a surge in our numbers. For example, we've seen 10x increase in our transactions. Traffic has gone up by 4x, and that's just 2 days. And we believe that this growth will continue because I think despite ATMs getting open, people getting cash now, the whole idea of now moving to digital payment, because that's easier and that's secure, and plus the fear has set in among people, so they really want to explore other options. Let's say if something like this happens in future. So we believe that this move will push users towards digital payments, and they'll start discovering that there's a better and easy way of paying offline and online.
I'm glad you mentioned that because 100 million people in India still do not have smartphones.
Yeah.
860 million people don't even have simple internet access. Now, the government, of course, has made a step in the right direction. But don't you think this move of the BJP government has come in too soon in the day, at a point of time when India was really not ready for demonetization? Because yes, of course, players like you are doing well. You all are enjoying fabulous amount of traction. But today, the on-ground reality is simply different. And I'm going to be joined by my colleague as well, who's out there on the streets, on the road, and gathering a lot of reactions from the common man, which is facing a lot of problem right now. You're going to an ATM, the ATMs are shut, the ATMs are out of money, the queues are long, salaried people are not being able to get out of their offices as well. What do you have to say about that?
So I think if you look at PM Modi's statement, primarily this was done to stop fake currency and corruption, and of course to weed out black money in the economy. So it's not necessarily done to promote digital payments. It's a side benefit which obviously would benefit a country in the long run. In fact, all the moves that will happen, the black money going out and fake currency going out, and plus people moving to digital. Of course, like you mentioned, only less than 200 million people actually are on smartphones, and most of them are still learning how to actually use digital. But you have to start at some point, right? If you have to start now, because we're looking at next 5 years to 10 years when India will become, hopefully, right now it's India's 95% cash and 5% digital payments, and we want to reverse it. So it has to happen at some point in time.
So that's where the entire marketing strategy of e-wallet players like you really come into the market. Now hold that thought right there. We've got Shailja Verma, who is our reporter, who's joining us live and telling us about the actual on-ground impediments that people are facing at this point of time. Shailja, good evening.
Good evening, Chayati. It was absolutely chaotic outside almost every ATM and every bank outside here in Delhi, as well as other parts of country, be it small towns, villages, as well as other metros. What we saw on the ground across ATMs in Delhi at least were long queues of people waiting since early in the morning, and a lot of people in fact had to go back disappointed because by the time they reached the ATM had run out of cash. And this was the scene across the country. There was anger, there was panic, there was confusion. Police had to be deployed outside several banks and ATMs, and to the extent that there are reports that a man had lost his life after he was standing in a queue in Mumbai. Now the question is whether all these things could have been prepared, could have been anticipated, and whether banks could have been better prepared. Now the banks, in their defense, say that one, they are short on staff. We also saw some of the banks calling retired employees also to come and volunteer to pitch in and help out on a day like this. And apart from that, if you look at the ATM mechanism, it has to be done manually. All the changes and configuration has to be done manually, and the banks say that it takes a lot of time to make all these changes. Apart from the inconvenience caused to the public, we also saw politics playing on this issue. We also saw Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi queuing up outside a State Bank of India branch in central Delhi in order to deposit cash, and that was a classic photo opportunity moment. We also saw Amit Shah from the BJP apologizing to the public for what he calls a temporary inconvenience to the people. Now, in the long term, we'll have to wait and see whether more and more people would be willing to store their wealth in a digital format, especially those from the smaller towns and also in the lower income category.
All right, thank you so much, Shelja. We leave it at that. Thank you so much for those live updates, and our reporters are there on ground tracking what is really happening to the people who are getting inconvenience now. Now, she just mentioned that there's just so much of chaos out there on the streets. A man has lost his life in India, in Bombay as well, at the back of this move. Do you still feel that all of this could have probably been avoided, and the BJP government should have probably planned better in terms of making these notes available, should have probably given a direction to the RBI to be better prepared for all of this?
Yes, I think they should have been better prepared in terms of making sure that 100 rupee notes are available across all ATMs, and not shutting down ATM for 2 full days. I think that would have led to a lot of shortage of cash, and that could have been planned better. But this move had to be announced suddenly, because if their objective is to remove black money, they can't give a longer notice. So from government's objective, I think yes, it was planned in a way that they actually could only announce it at a last minute. But in terms of preparing for making the cash available across ATMs, I think that could have been done slightly better.
Now, what is Paytm doing? You know, earlier before we got Shelja and we were talking about how your marketing strategy plays up at this point of time. Now, suddenly everyone is caught off guard. Paytm itself must have been caught off guard with this move. You all never expected this spiral uptick in your revenues or volume uptick as well in terms of your customer rush that you must have seen on your e-wallet. What is your marketing strategy really? Because now there are so many people who are sitting on the fence who do not want to venture into mobile wallets, who do not want to get onto smartphones either. What was your strategy at that point of time to deeply penetrate, cash on to that opportunity and make sure you make your presence felt in India where your presence is still not felt?
Sure. So as we speak, we have 5,000 people feet on street right now, talking to shopkeepers, merchants, signing them up. So for example, we already have about 7 lakh shopkeepers who use Paytm as the payment method. Idea is to add another 3 lakh in next 20 days. So all these 5,000 people, they are actually signing up almost 20,000 shopkeepers a day. And these shopkeepers are in turn becoming a brand ambassador. So they're actually telling their customers to pay using Paytm because even they don't want to handle cash.
Right.
And not just for next couple of days, I think they're realizing that handling digital payments is much more easier for them in terms of accounting, in terms of handling cash, safety, and plus, the ease of payment, because it just, makes it much easier. There's no hassle of giving change and stuff like that. So that way, shopkeepers, these 700,000 shopkeepers are technically brand ambassadors, and they're actually educating customers, helping them download the app. So another reason we've seen spike in the smaller towns, because these shopkeepers are actually because they earn commission based on the number of customers they bring in. So that way,
So what kind of penetration have you currently done? You said about 700,000, which is 7 lakh shopkeepers, which is not too much actually. You might want to up that figure at some point of time, because you walk out into a Kirana store today and you're not being able to buy your daily necessities because you realize you only have 500 rupee notes in your wallet. There is a queue at the ATM. The ATMs are shut. The banks were shut last Wednesday as well. How many more translations are you going to make, and what are the kind of stores that you're really targeting? Are these supermarkets, or are these those local on-ground Kirana stores as well, who probably might get into this entire major plan of financial inclusion?
In fact, just to give you some idea about the numbers we saw in last 2 days, the transactions between 30 rupees to 100 rupees, which are like very small value transactions, have gone up by almost 15x. So a lot of people are actually using it across chai wala, hawkers, and really small shops.
So even the stores where the debit card and credit card payments are not getting
exactly.
accepted,
In fact, out of these
mobile e-wallets are coming in, is it?
Out of these 700,000, I think 90% of them, they don't even accept any other payment option except cash or Paytm.
So how do you convert them? You give them a smartphone, and and we go there with our smartphones. And what if I don't have a smartphone? How do I transact it?
So right now, yes, you need a smartphone to pay. In fact, to receive, you don't actually need to have a smartphone. They can actually have a QR code pasted, and all the money gets deposited to their Paytm wallet. And
but then how do I know how much money is really, if I don't have the app, how do I know how much money is somebody else
you need an app.
You need an
it's just that, we send you the SMS, the shopkeeper gets the SMS, so they get the confirmation that money has come in. I'm sure they can go and log in from their house or from any other place where they have access to internet and just check their balance. So it's not that you physically need both these smartphones at the same place. And to answer your first question, that 700,000 is not enough. In fact, the interesting part is that 150 million users that we have, technically, they all can accept payment as well. So if I have a shop and I'm not a registered merchant on Paytm, I can still accept payment. I can just give you my mobile number and tell you to transfer money. So technically, we have 150,000 people who are receiving payment using Paytm.
And you all are still counting and adding more
Absolutely.
to that figure, of course.
Now, in fact, in last 3 days alone, we've added close to 1 million users.
1 million users in in probably 3 days.
Yeah, 2.5 days. Yeah.
So this is obviously leading to some sort of financial empowerment of sorts.
Absolutely. In fact, I think our mission of having 500 million people part of this mainstream, we thought we'll do it by next year, December. We are now, looking at maybe April or May next year, where we'll be able to at least touch 300 to 400 million people coming into this.
I was just going through the targets that you have set for Paytm in the next 3 years to come in terms of your volume uptake, in terms of your revenue growth and user base growth as well. And from a quick little math that I did, I realized that what would have otherwise taken you 3 years to achieve would now be done in a matter of months or a year, probably.
Yes.
Am I right on that count? So what is the compounded annual growth rate that you would see on a year-on-year basis going forward now for Paytm?
So we grew, I think, 5x in last 1 year, and we hope to grow at a much faster rate this year. So maybe another 6 to 10x growth this year.
Now, how easy it is to get a payment bank license? Now, there is one Paytm, there is LiveQuick, there is MobiQuick, if I'm not mistaken. Couple of e-wallet options exist in India, of course, with yours being the largest in terms of volume and everything else, in terms of valuations as well. But if there would have to be more fintech providers in this country in terms of startups, how easy it is for them to get the regulator's license to operate? And are operators really ready to take on this financial inclusion agenda? Is India ready for something like this?
I think India is absolutely ready. In fact, you see the buzzword these days is fintech. There are a lot of startups we meet every day, people who are trying something new in fintech, and you don't necessarily need to get licensed to do something in fintech, right? So there are a lot of apps which are now riding on existing. For example, there are apps which are using UPI gateway. There are apps which are using IMPS, and they're actually getting people on board. Trying digital cash for the first time, and they don't actually need any license from RBI or for any regulatory body. So depending on what kind of model you want to embrace in fintech, there are ways to help people without really going through a regulatory model.
Now, mobile e-wallet like a Paytm, is that a one-stop shop for cash transactions to make it a cashless economy? Is there a cap on it, or probably you have a point and situation where you really can't do without cash because there's some sort of a cap there on how much money you can keep into your e-wallets? Can you give us some clarity on that front?
So as per regulation, you can only keep 10,000 rupees in your wallet. You can actually transact for 10,000 rupees in your wallet.
So at every given point of time, I've got 10,000 rupees in my wallet. It's just that it's stored in a digital format.
Yeah, but if you have a KYC done for your wallet, it can go up to 100,000 rupees as well.
So I can have a lakh of rupees in a month. In a month it has to be only a lakh of rupees, which means that we are still not saying bye-bye to having actual cash in our wallets as well. You probably would still require cash, right?
No, actually, when we say you can keep
because
money,
once I have obviously capped on the 1 lakh payment, say I've done it in 1 day or I've done it in 2 days, some people would take about a month to do it. But what for people who have spent it in the first 2 days? Can they still renew that amount?
If you see most of the India, I think 99.99% people would spend less than 100,000 rupees a month. Even if you look at India's income tax bracket, only about, I think, 0.1% people actually earn more than 15 lakh rupees a year. So we're not even looking at a situation where people will start demanding more than 100,000 rupees limit in a month. Obviously, RBI is looking into it, depending on how it picks up, looking at the growth. Obviously, we'll go back to the regulatory body and see if we need to increase it. But as of now, I think these limits are pretty much good for almost the entire population of this country.
Now, are you in any kind of a dialogue with the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, or the TRAI, in terms of making sure that they are increasing the penetration of internet and smartphones and 3G and 4G services in this country? Because your success and e-wallet success in country largely depends on what they do.
Yeah. So, so another number. So there are about 250 million smartphones. Only about 150 million are connected. So we are even looking at 100 million people who have smartphones, but they don't have internet connection. So obviously, the first target is to, while India is adding about 3 million smartphones a month. Now that number is good enough, but these 100 million people who already own a phone but don't have an internet connection, I think yes, penetration, cheaper data, which Jio is now helping us. So in fact, in the last 4 months, we've seen almost 8% of traffic coming in from Reliance Jio. So that means people are lapping it up, and we believe that with Jio's pricing structure and others also bringing their pricing down, data uptake will happen, and those 100 million people who are unconnected right now, most of them would start connecting and will then see real evolution.
And what about these cash on delivery methods? Now, e-commerce sites offer you COD, that is, you pay cash on delivery, and Paytm as well has launched its own e-commerce site in competition with Amazons of the world as well. From EOD, correct me if I'm wrong, but from cash on delivery, are we going to a phase in India where we're going to wallet on delivery?
We've already done that. So, for example, we have tied up with Blue Dart, and there are 10,000 agents. They actually
And how does wallet on delivery really work? It's just a terminology for us.
So, a Blue Dart guy who's delivering a courier to you, he needs to collect 5,000 rupees as a cost towards that courier. So, you just need to ask the number of that courier guy and feed into your Paytm app and just pay the money to the courier guy. He'll get the SMS and your money payment is done. So you don't really need to give cash to the courier guy.
But Blue Dart is just one company. What about many other companies? Are you tying up at the back end in terms of the B2B
connect? So we're tying up with most B2B companies and making sure that everyone who goes out in the field, they have their own either the QR code or a mobile number which is linked to Paytm wallet.
But it's going to take a long while till the entire country laps onto this financial inclusion, isn't it?
Long term, right? So that's what our aim is, to that slowly educate the customers, bring in more merchants, and overall economy will take time to adapt this, but we'll keep on investing into this.
So you are trying hard to make the consumer more discerning about this option which is available, and what are the steps that you're taking to make the consumer far more discerning than what he is right now?
So like I mentioned, these 700,000 merchants who are actually acting as brand ambassadors for us, we created a incentive program where they actually start educating customers, and that's one step which we've taken, that actively we've done a lot of video series where we're actually telling people what exactly they can do with Paytm. So a lot of people still don't know Paytm can be accepted at all these 100,000, 200,000 outlets around them. So that's one step which we've taken in the last 2 days, that making sure that we used all the social media channels from messengers to WhatsApp to Facebook to all the channels that are possible to touch almost 200 to 300 million users who are not on Paytm network, to educate them on how Paytm can actually make their life easier for next couple of days and going forward as well.
So now, on a winding note, now it was just about a couple of years ago when e-commerce was the sunrise sector in India. We saw massive merger and acquisitions take place. We saw the valuations riding high. We saw strategic exits of promoters as well, with them diluting equity at higher valuations. Even though they were cash flow negative, you saw them making exits at those particular valuations. Is Fintech and m-commerce the new sunrise sector, and is e-commerce passé, or do they really go hand in hand? And will m-commerce see the same kind of situation that e-commerce really saw in the past 2 years?
So, first of all, there's no difference between m-commerce and e-commerce. It's basically digital commerce, right? So,
right.
Like we know that.
But it is now a term which is differentiating and being used differently. M-commerce more refers to your apps and your mobile wallets, and e-commerce really refers to your
most of India is paying through mobile. They're shopping through mobile. So technically, the lines are blurred. So it's as long as you are buying through a digital channel, be it a desktop or a mobile app, it's some sort of commerce. So I would really call it digital commerce and not M or e-commerce.
Right.
I would say that e-commerce is yet to see the kind of, because like I mentioned, there's still about 600 million people who can come online, and they will come online next 3 to 4 years.
Right.
And there are only about 50 to 60 million people who are transacting online right now on e-commerce apps. This number is going to grow about 10x in next 4 years. So we're not really.
It's massive.
Yeah. So the kind of numbers e-commerce as well as payment companies like ours can expect, sky's the limit. I mean, we just scratched the surface.
All right, thank you so much, Deepak Abbot, for joining us here, right here on WION. That was the Senior Vice President of Paytm, Deepak Abbot, joining us on the financial inclusion and the new digital India that we're about to see. That's it for now. Stay tuned to WION for more news and updates throughout the day.